I following social media, like check and see what's going on social media and so on. And following the election of Asduddin Mohammed as the leader of the opposition, I think he made a statement and he said that one of the things that he's going to go after is corruption. And that has caused a lot of comments on social media. People saying that Asduddin Mohammed has no moral authority to talk about corruption. But let me say this. First of all, we all knew, it is indisputable, that Asduddin Mohammed was in the belly of the beast, the PPP beast. He was there with them thick and thin, shoulder to shoulder. They came, he and his father, to say they contributed heavily in 2020 and perhaps even before to the election of the PPP, the type. The father, Shell Mohammed, was a candidate for the PPP during the last local government election. He contested the Eccles Ramsburg. So he ain't got no moral authority to talk about corruption. But I say, forget about the moral authority part. He has the knowledge of how the beast operates. And therefore, I am not going to discard the things that he's saying. But when we come to moral authority, let me ask this question. I can tell you all what moral authority is, but let me ask this question. Who in the PPP has the moral authority to talk about corruption? Who? Yeah, tell me, Jagdeo, Irfan Ali, Nandlal. Who? Just tell me who in the PPP has the moral authority to talk about corruption. And hear what they say, and let's do me research, Moral authority, what is moral authority? Moral authority is the influence of power to affect change, inspire, and guide others based on earned trust, integrity, and ethical principles rather than formal, legal, or coercive power. It is rooted in character, wisdom, and consistent adherence to values. It serves as a foundation for leadership and societal norms, often independent of or even in opposition to official laws. Key aspects of moral authority: it is earned and it is not given. Unlike formal power, example, a job title, moral authority is earned through behavior and trust. Influence via example. It relies on leading by example, wisdom, and virtue. Value-driven. It is derived from principles of right and good, often appealing to conscience. Fragile nature. It must be consistently maintained and can be destroyed by unethical actions. Context. It operates within individuals, institutions, or social movements to shape behavior. Again, once we look at this definition of moral authority, I ask the question, I admit, given the definition, given the fact that Asduddin Mohammed has had legal issues and allegations and so on, maybe, I said maybe because he's not convicted of anything, And when last I checked, you're still innocent until, you're still presumed innocent until proven guilty. You have that right. So again, I ask the question, if we're going to say that Asduddin Mohammed does not have the moral authority to talk about corruption, I ask, who in the current government, the PPP government, can we say has the moral authority to talk about corruption? We talking here, we want to say, this is not formal power, it is earned. Moral authority, like respect, is earned, not given. So you might have all sorts of titles. You get title as president, you get title as vice president, you get title as attorney general. That is title that is given to you. You don't earn that, it is given to you. And that doesn't come with moral authority. Moral authority is how you conduct yourself over a long period of time. Long period of time. You got to influence by example, right? By example, you got to do the right thing. You can't sit back and say, do what I tell you to do, not what I do. That is not moral authority is all about. So I say, without any fear of contradiction, very few, if any at all, of people in the current government has the moral authority to talk about corruption. And let me say this. That's one of the things I noted they said too, that if Mohammed, if Irfan, if Azzuddin Mohammed is innocent as he proclaims, why not turn himself in to the US to face trial? That is what some stupid argument that is being made. I say the same thing. If that is the case, given the allegation that was made against Bharat Jagdeo in the Sugate scandal, why did he not arrange for a proper, credible investigation to be done? Why? So you see, they come because they have the agenda, and they come and they try to kerfuffle with all other things. But as I tell y'all, when y'all talk and when y'all write, I love it because I can go through and try to make some sense and pick it to pieces. If you are arguing, as many of them have, that Azzuddin, if he is innocent, as he proclaims, then he should go to the States and face the allegations that are leveled against him. Let me use the same yardstick. The most serious allegation of corruption ever made against a politician in Ghana was made in the Vice News interview against Bharat Jagdeo, the vice president. So if you want to argue, why then, if he's innocent, why did Jagdeo, with all this political power, could have reached out to the FBI, could have reached out to Scotland Yard, could have reached out to the Canadian Mounties and said, look, they have this allegation being made. Come and investigate. I want to claim a name. Never did that. So are we to then assume that he's guilty? Are we to then assume that because he did not use his authority and his political power to ensure that a credible investigation was done, that he's guilty? Come on, man, come on. When y'all talk all of these things, some people who are supposed to be intelligent and so on, y'all slip showing. Y'all slip showing. Try to be very objective when you make these analyses, or else you're going to lose whatever little credibility you may have. I am not rooting for Azzuddin Mohammed. I am saying clearly, yeah, and the time that made Thomas and Alice, they ain't doing nothing. But all the focus is on Azzuddin Mohammed. Why? Because he's seen as a serious political rival. He's seen as a man who can bring the whole house down. Because when you talk about corruption, he was there. And if you're claiming that he was corrupt, maybe all of them together were involved in some of these practices. And they know that he knows. And therefore, they have to try to discredit him. They have to discredit him. Let me bring in, I say a mouthful there. Let me bring in CC for CC to tell us something about this moral authority that they're talking about. Moral authority. You see, these people coming and talking about moral authority. Maybe you can answer. Who in the PPP has the moral authority to talk about corruption? Go ahead, my brother.
I've been searching my mind. I've been running through Parliament, the ministries, and all about the place. And I can't find anybody. Not a single one come to my mind. Maybe they got, but none ain't coming forward. And Paul, let me talk a bit about corruption. I have a book here, Management and Supervision in Law Enforcement. Wayne W. Bennett and Karen M.S., two former commissioners of police, wrote this book. And I want to recommend it to members of the force. There are several volumes, several editions, Management and Supervision in Law Enforcement. And here's what it says about corrupt behavior. The key elements of corrupt behavior are that the conduct, one, is prohibited by law or rule. Two, involves misuse of power, misuse of position. And three, involves a reward or personal gain for the officer or others. Let me go over. The key elements of corrupt behavior are that the conduct, one, is prohibited by law or rule. 2. Involves misuse of position. And 3. Involves a reward or personal gain for the officer and others. And here's what the talk, they went on further, talking about corruption. Let me read. Corruption is a corrosive element that will spread like rust if it is not contained or eliminated. Addressing unethical behavior and corruption has become a top priority and major challenge for police administrators. The causes of corruption are complex. Many factors can contribute to corruption, include greed, personal motivators such as ego, sex, we know what made in the police college, or the exercise of power, tolerance of the behavior of the community, socializing from peers and or the organization, inadequate supervision and monitoring behavior, lack of clear accountability of employees' behavior, and no real threat of discipline or sanctions. That's all you see. And as you asked the question, Paul, I've been looking around and I can't nobody come to mind even close, none whatsoever who can really talk, who will get a moral authority to speak about corruption and other areas. I ain't find any. Maybe they got, but I haven't found a single one.
Well, let me continue from just there. Spend a minute to tell you something more, because it's a definition. You see, we have a narrow concept and definition of what corruption is, but corruption is much wider than a man taking a raise, right, to do something or not to do something. Much wider than that. Corruption is the abuse of entrusted power. Here I would start the definition. Corruption is the abuse of entrusted power, authority, or office for private gains involving dishonest, unethical, or criminal action. Let me go back. It can be involving dishonest, unethical, or criminal action. It undermines democracy, weakens institutions, distorts economies, and often involves bribery, fraud, embezzlement, or nepotism to secure unfair advantages impacting both public and private sectors. The key elements of corruption are: one, abuse of entrusted power, where you misuse of authority in public office, business, or other organizations. You got two, private gain. You benefit in oneself, your family, your friends, or specific group. Example, political party, corporations, rather than the public interest. Then you say three, breach of trust, violating the trust placed in an individual or organizations. Common forms, you talk about bribery, offering, giving, or receiving anything of value to influence an official action. Let me repeat that. Bribery is offering, giving, or receiving anything of value to influence an official's action. Embezzlement, theft of public or entrusted funds by individuals in power. Nepotism or cronyism, right? Favoring family members or friends for jobs or contracts. Let me repeat that for emphasis. This is corruption. You're favoring family members or friends for jobs or contracts. Influence peddling, using connections to gain specific favors. Extortion, you coerce people, coercing someone to pay for services. All of these things are corruption. So we sit back, many of us, and we say corruption, oh, you give her money, forget a firearm license. Yeah, there is corruption, but that is not the extent of corruption. When you sit in your office as a minister or someone in authority, and you call someone, you tell him, say, look, give this man a gun license. Give him a gun license. You are part of the corruption. This is corruption. You sit there and you pass out. You don't have to necessarily collect the money, but you're using your office to influence a certain unlawful decision. It is corruption. So, but again, I say, when you apply that wide definition, then you see what really corruption is. What I look to see, all right, Mohammed charged with smuggling. So he corrupt. Mind you, nobody has proved he guilty yet. You have other allegations involving the same gold smuggling they're talking about. What have they done? Junior Bash made some very damning allegations against other people in the gold industry. Have they done anything? I'm not aware that they have done anything. And I'm saying again, the reason why maybe they have not done anything and that they have no appetite to do anything, because you're gonna come right home at them, right in the yard, in the kitchen, in the bedroom. The corruption is deep. When you apply the wider definition, it is even deeper. And let me tell you, a long time I haven't played this tape about corruption. Let me play it here now as we also to close. Listen to this.
Corruption is a vile disease that sucks and drains the health out of something good. Corruption in society is an evil moral infection that keeps community in a state of perpetual sickness. Corruption is a moral virus. It's so potent it leaves its host sick, lethargic, and unable to realize and accomplish all that a well person can. Where corruption thrives, poverty and not prosperity thrives. Wealth is grabbed into the greedy, grubby hands of those who get fat on the toil and labor of good people. Corruption benefits, only temporarily, those who participate in it. Everyone else is a victim of the theft, the deceit, the dishonesty, and the lies that corruption feeds on. You need to know that a corrupt person is stealing from you. Corruption is filthy work and despicable acts of treachery done under the table and behind closed doors. Corruption is a disgusting shame. Corruption keeps a nation back from true development and from progress. Wise investors steer clear of a corrupt environment. They would rather put their resources into a place where the playing field of opportunity is equal for all and not bent towards feeding the financial lust of corrupt, lying, cheating, thieving politicians and government officials. How many wonderful development projects have been lost because the investors didn't want to do business in a swamp of evil? When those great projects go to another nation or to some other place, we all lose. Believe me when I tell you that corruption steals from you, it steals from all of us. Corruption plunders the nation's wealth. Corruption people compromise on truth, equity, and fairness, choosing instead to feed off the short-term benefits of crookedness, exploitation, and financial perversion. Corruption is not just a personal matter. It's a culture. It's a way of life, not just for individual people, but for companies, communities, governments, and nations. Corrupt nations, hiding behind large companies, will seek to invest in other weak nations in order to take over the assets of the nation that they've invested into. They will provide financial loans to a nation for the much needed infrastructure, and they will do it with assets that they provide. They will sign contracts by lining the pockets of rotten government officials who participate in this kind of corruption and are then held hostage by their own deceit and greed. Corruption is nothing less than a form of theft and national robbery. A corrupt person steals from everyone in society. We all lose when corruption is rampant. Those who participate in corruption have chosen evil over good, lies over truth, and personal gain over well-being of all. To be corrupt means to be rotten. When meat is corrupt, it's rotten, and it stinks. Rotten meat can't be eaten. When a person is corrupt, he's rotten and unfit for a place in the community. A corrupt person should be jailed in order to protect society from the vile deeds of the corrupt person. Government should be protecting us from the foul results of corruption instead of being the proponents and participants in corruption. When corruption is systemic, when it's a culture and a way of life, when corruption thrives, it destroys the health of the community and nation. Now let me tell you something. Defeating corruption is a very difficult thing. The love of money is the root of all evil, the Bible says. People who love money will do almost anything to get it. Those who choose to stand up against corruption, you need to know that we're going to be involved in a war. We will be threatened, vilified, intimidated, marginalized, and ridiculed. These kind of people who stand up against corruption will often feel alone, as if they are the problem instead of the solution. Corruption can only be defeated when enough people have had enough and decide to do something about it.
Well, we see here what corruption is. Let me say this. I see a comment here that I feel obliged to respond to. As my good friend Selwyn is saying, corruption was rampant between 2015 and 2020. I don't know what he means by rampant. But let me say this. I have never said that there have not been corruption in all governments. Let me understand this. From the time Noah was a boy, you heard about story, especially as it relates to giving job to family members and all. Lot of stories were told. We have always heard that. But I am saying this without any fear of contradiction. I'm saying this again without any fear of contradiction. Post 2020, when the PPP came into office, you got corruption on steroids. Corruption on steroids. And the evidence is there. Look at the reports from all of these bodies and so on. The evidence is there. Right? So don't get me wrong. I am saying that you said corruption was rampant between 2015 and 2020. You talk about Vola Lawrence. Yeah, I think she made a statement that she can give party people. Tell me which government has not favored its party people, but not in the manner that these people doing, this criminal cabal. This criminal, I am saying in any society, there is a level of corruption, there's a level of deviance that is accepted. But body by, let's be honest. From 2020 to now, corruption on steroids. When you get a minister can get property, 500 and something thousand property in the US, and when you look at the transaction, it look like if it's an old money laundering thing. The same minister get properties in Guyana. The minister admitted to it. So this is not a mere allegation. The minister said she used to sell, when people send sweetie and chocolate to she back in the state, she was so thrifty and she was so entrepreneurial that she used to sell it and thing. That is what she says. They have other ministers as well. Junior Bush made allegations against the president. And in case you forget, let me show you this one too. Let me show you this one. Look.
Sit there and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong?
Su? Oh, Su? My relationship? Nothing. He's a tenant in my place, yeah.
And he's a good friend of yours?
Yes, he is a friend of ours.
He claims.
Yeah, he's a friend of ours. Serious allegation like that. You name any allegation pre-2020 of such a serious nature. Name it. Listen to this one too.
The darker you are, the lower you are on the index. The developed countries hardly ever get on this index. And they have more institutional corruption, in my view.
What about within your government? Yeah. Do you accept bribes?
No, I don't.
We've spoken to a number of Chinese business people in Guyana who said that you do accept bribes, and they've said that, in fact, it's the only way to get business done.
Yeah, well, I can't comment on that. You can just sit there and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong?
Su? Oh, so my relationship, nothing. He's a tenant in my place. Yeah.
And he's a good friend of yours?
Yes. Yes. He is a friend of ours.
He claims that through his very close relationship with you, that he's able to get any deal done.
Well, I don't.
Do you use middlemen like Sue in order to take money on your behalf so that you can keep your hands clean?
No. The answer is no.
We met with a manager from a Chinese state-run corporation who confirmed that they use individuals like Sue in order to get these deals done, and that they pay them a consulting fee, which essentially serves as a bribe to individuals like you. I mean, what would you say to
I
that?
don't know, because again, that's all. You're building everything on what you have met and what people told you. I don't know. I can't comment on some anonymous manager now telling you something.
I mean, these are individuals who
why
have
do you want
significant
me?
business interests
Why
in
do
this
you?
country. So I'm
Why
just
do you
wondering,
think? Yes,
if there,
but why
if
do
there's so
you
many
think?
people are telling us one thing about, this
Yeah,
is
but-
the way that deals get done.
But it
I'm
is.
wondering what your
But
take
don't you
is.
know, when the reporters come from abroad, this is their catch you kind of thing. You always want to make a developing country leader look corrupt. So you've done your bit.
Will you investigate at least, these
No,
ways of-
definitely. I'm going to ask about all of this, but I can't comment reasonably. How can I comment on these issues?
A few days after meeting with us, Jagdeo released our interview to the press, seemingly to get ahead of the onslaught of public reactions. Guyana's president leapt to Jagdeo's defense.
I heard that the reporter had certain special interests.
Neither the timber exporter we spoke to nor the Chinese state-run firms mentioned in this piece responded to our questions. But in a statement, the Chinese embassy called our reporting false and said all Chinese companies operating in Guyana follow local laws and international practices. Sue also claimed he'd never said this and released a statement saying that he'd never acted on behalf of any government official or promised any favour or business-related reward. Since our interview,
You heard for yourself, and you heard what the Jagdeo said. Yeah, we gonna get investigation. Yeah, where is that investigation? Where is that investigation? And I've said repeatedly, right, that with the influence of Jagdeo and all them, if they're really interested in having a credible investigation because they're sure that they were not guilty of anything, they could have invited the US or any one of those agencies, credible investigations, to come and to investigate, to clear the name. But what he did, he sue, and they end up further. Sue disappear, and therefore maybe he can get default judgment. But that does not clear his name. The most serious allegation ever made against a politician in Guyana is there, like the sword of Damocles over his head. That's why we said these people ain't got no shame, because anyone with a modicum of shame would have ensured, with his influence, would have ensured that a proper investigation is done to clear his name of that serious allegation. And talking about corruption again, post-2020, you got senior police officer sanctioned by the US for being a drug trafficker. And what have they done? What have they done? You get the man in charge of serious crime, the major crime unit in the Guyana Police Force, held in US, interrogated for hours, passport, cell phone, searched. Recently, it is said that his visa to the US was cancelled. Right? And what they do? What have they done? And I saw a letter today. I ain't got time to deal with that same matter with Senior Superintendent Michelle Caesar. Then today's people, not a letter, an article, and I think it's Stabrook too. We can deal with it. We can deal with it. Because to come and say again, before I bring in CC, to come and say that, yeah, you had corruption, well, it's a rampant corruption between 2015 and 2020. Where is the evidence? Where is the evidence? And I'm saying that if they get all this corruption, come and let me investigate all, not only investigate the current government or the previous PPP administration, do a thorough, proper investigation. Do a thorough, proper investigation. You have, let me tell you this in case you know. You get, during the same period that Selwyn referenced, 2015, 2020, can't remember the exact year, I gotta check my records. You had a set of senior police officers being polygraphed, like detector tests administered to them by credible professional agencies. And many of them failed. And one of the questions they could not honestly answer is whether they benefited from the drug trade. Not a senior police officer can't answer whether they benefited from the drug trade, and they're in senior position today, they're in senior position. So really, you're coming to say, let me deal with this thing in a very objective way. Yes, corruption has always been around. I send policemen to jail for corruption. At least one, to jail. Cause many policemen to lose their jobs because of corruption. But they say it's corruption on a different scale. Corruption on a different scale. Corruption on steroids. So when you are come good. Come good. Don't come and just make these statements like that. Because I am going to analyze them and I'm going to talk. I am going to talk about it. I say again before bringing Mr. Conway. And let me read what GHK last said about this government. The previous PPP government and the current one. What we have today is not a government, but a gang of gangsters. For the most part, what Guyanese have for leaders today are nothing but out of control lunatics, pathological liars, unreconstructed racists, and political sadists. That is what GHK Lal, and I agree with him. So it's about the scale. So don't come and say, yeah, they are corrupt. Yes, nobody can deny that. Nobody can deny that. But we're talking about an unprecedented scale. And with the oil money that is circulating, they think that on steroids. They think on steroids. And the evidence is there. The evidence is there. But they're going to put them before court because the people, again, let me emphasize this part. The people who are supposed to make them accountable, they're in the kungsi. They themselves, when you talk about corruption, they themselves, and therefore they know that they don't want to be pulled in, so you ain't got no investigation. When the vice president said, oh yes, we're going to have an investigation, and until now, years down the road, no investigation. None. Why? At one time, they used to come out and tell you, oh, you don't have any corruption, bring the evidence. Imagine a government, senior people in government tell you, bring evidence when allegations are made. And I wrote a letter in the paper to tell the president that is not the way it is done. When an allegation is made, you can't ask the person who made the allegation to bring the evidence. You have got to investigate to unearth and uncover the evidence. You have got to conduct an investigation. So you tell about corruption and all this type of thing. In every area that they point out about corruption, you can point fingers at the PPP and say they're corrupt. In every area. Let me tell you all this one before I bring in CC. I know I'm saying so all the time, before I bring in CC. Right? Whistleblower. We talk about the recent case where this big sex scandal in the police training institution there. Right? And it has been said that rather than investigating the people who were involved, they are investigating the whistleblower. They're trying to find out who recorded this female recruit on her knees performing oral sex on a male, and they say it was in the instructor's office of the police. Corruption. So they're not interested in finding out who involved. They're looking to see who. Cybercrime. The cybercrime unit is investigating that, I understand. Look at going back to this same Ashuddin Mohammed. When the allegation was made by Sergeant Boscom, right, that Ashuddin Mohammed paid Caesar, the same man in charge of the major crime unit, $30 million Ghana to cover up the Paper Sharks murder. What did they do? They went after the whistleblower. They went after Boscom. So you want to tell me that they're interested in dealing with corruption and all that? They have no appetite for that. None. The president himself was written to by the lawyer representing Boscom. And then he was traveling. He said, I haven't seen the letter. Giving the impression when he come back, he can look at it. He ain't come back. He ain't come back yet. So y'all come and let me remind y'all of these things. Let me remind you every single report from these agencies that come out, every single report, they point to corruption. They even point to corruption in the judiciary. Is that me saying so? Is these international agencies when they make the report? I was shocked when they say that. The people made a report to say that the Guyana police force is the weakest link in this whole fight against crime and the corruption. They've said so in black and white. Is not we saying that? Is not we saying that? So let me understand this thing clearly. Let me bring in CC to close off, man. CC, let me take. I have said a mouthful, but I know you want to have your say and to close. Go ahead.
Well, they're saying that they ain't get corruption, but I wonder when the president going to form this anti-corruption unit or whatever name he call it, you know. Is he say months now that he going to form it, you know? And I wonder when he going to take some action in relation to the triangulated data that he got, that persons, hundreds, maybe thousands of persons receive their driver's license without going through the process, receive it illegally, receive them through corrupt practice. He said he give them a time in which to come forward. That time has passed. Is he serious about corruption? He ain't forming the corruption unit. He ain't taking action against those